What Neymar said while he was crying in this interview shocked the football world and revealed everything that is wrong with the modern day media. But to explain, we need to go back to the 2017 Champions League, Barcelona versus PSG, where Neymar had just orchestrated what might be the greatest comeback in football history. And I just remember watching this game and thinking, when Lionel Messi leaves, Neymar will be the one to take over. But just a few months later, he left for PSG. And yes, Neymar would go on to be brilliant in Paris. But he never quite became what we all thought he would be, because he neither won the Ballon d'Or there or the Champions League. And when he left for Al Hilal, the injuries piled up. And from there it seemed like his love for the game had faded away. It resulted in him playing just 5 games in 2 years for Al Hilal, with a contract worth hundreds of millions. And I can understand why that upsets a lot of people. But the problem is that there is a human aspect to the story of Neymar that people often forget. Because this is the kid who scored the goal of the year at 19. Who had to carry the weight of the world's greatest football nation at 22, surviving a near career-ending injury, but still coming back and conquering Europe at 23, forming maybe the greatest trio football had ever seen, sealing the Olympic gold at 24, orchestrating the greatest comeback at 25, all while going head-to-head with the 2 greatest footballers of all time, in their primes. And despite that, he has been butchered by the media in ways few other footballers ever have. And since his comeback to Santos, the fake news have just continued. Because what you need to understand is that Santos have been going through one of the worst periods in their history. 3 years ago, their greatest ever legend Pelé passed away. And 2 years ago, they were relegated for the first time in their history. But they managed to come back to the first division for this year's season. However, with only a few games left, Santos were once again fighting relegation. So Neymar had not only returned because of his love for his boyhood club, but also to try saving them. But sadly, the injuries struck again, and Neymar had to watch his beloved team fall from the sidelines. Even the doctors told him that his season was over and that he should undergo surgery immediately. But outside the pitch, things were even worse, as the Brazilian media just kept spreading lies about Neymar's life. And eventually, it reached a point where all the noise became so unbearable that Neymar himself had to come out in an interview and say, "People made up a lot of things. I get sad and very upset about it. I'm a human being, and no person deserves to hear the nonsense I heard recently. You guys need to be very careful, because it's harmful for mental health." Neymar even revealed that for the first time in his entire career, he had been seeking psychological help to cope with all the bullshit. Because one of the things that the media accused him of was that he was undisciplined and that he didn't care. But that was a lie. Because despite the doctors urging Neymar to end the season and get urgent surgery, he just told them 4 words: "My club needs me." So he decided to ignore the doctors. And with only 3 games remaining, and Santos being 17th in the league, Neymar stepped onto the pitch again in the must-win game against Sport Recife, playing through the pain with a knee that was so swollen that some experts even warned that stepping onto the pitch could potentially be career-ending for him. But instead, Neymar would make the impossible possible. Even though he at times was limping, with his knee strapped, he still delivered an historic performance, scoring the opening goal in a 3-0 victory that kept Santos' survival hopes alive. And just a few days later, they faced Juventud, another do-or-die match, where Neymar produced one of the greatest individual displays of his entire career. Because despite essentially playing on one leg, he scored a hat-trick, leading Santos to another 3-0 win. And it single-handedly pulled Santos out of the relegation zone. The win propelled them from the 17th to the 15th place, with 1 game that remained. Suddenly, the team and the fans started to believe. Their last opponent was Cruzeiro, who were in the 3rd place. And Neymar, who was still playing with a torn meniscus, stepped onto that pitch for one last fight. and led Santos to their third 3-0 win in a row, not only saving Santos from relegation, but also helping them climb all the way to 12th place in the standings, which incredibly earned them a spot in the next year's Copa Sudamericana. And in those last 3 games, Neymar scored 4 goals and provided 1 assist. And when the final whistle blew, Neymar fell down to his knees and broke down in tears. Because despite being a 33-year-old superstar who had won the Champions League, scored in the World Cups, and played for the biggest clubs, none of that compared to saving the club that had given him everything. The fans, who also were in tears, all chanting his name. And after the game, Neymar confirmed that he will undergo knee surgery in the off-season, saying that he wouldn't have played if it wasn't for all of those people who supported him. Because no matter what the media says, those fans mean the world to Neymar. And he means the world to them. An example of this was when a fan during a warm-up shouted that he would give Neymar his knees so he could play. But the best example was when he reunited with a fan called Mateus. Back in 2012, when Neymar was a young star at Santos, Mateus was only 6 years old and battling leukemia. His dream was to meet Neymar, and when he did, he asked if he could dedicate a goal celebration to him by doing a special dance the next time he scored, which he did. And fast forward 13 years, Mateus has beaten cancer and reunited with Neymar again, where they recreated that same dance together. And in the end, that's where I'll end this video. Because this is the side of Neymar that is the truth. The side that the traditional media will never show you. The story of the Prince of Football who returned home, who risked his entire career and faced his fears, all to save the club who gave him his career. And this is a story that makes me dream that maybe this isn't the end of Neymar's story, because hopefully there is a World Cup we all will see where Neymar Jr. will be.